Well, Patti, I really enjoyed our conversation today with Danny Mikhail. As always, an interesting interviewee about
Yes.
Zuza and omni-channel dual pricing.
Yeah, I thought that he had some really good insights, and I really like the way you followed up with your questions from the field because I think those two
Thank you.
dovetailed perfectly. Would you
Yeah,
like to tell everybody about that? Because I
I
think
would. Yeah. It's just interesting to me. I mentioned a while back a survey that I did with all these agents, and everybody
right.
liked dual pricing better. But we see a lot of the ISOs that are still a little hesitant. And a lot of it has to do with the transparency of dual pricing and how that can maybe work against you in some ways if you
Mm-hmm.
handle it wrong. So I just talk about that and kind of how to handle it correctly. And then Patti, your insiders, they covered a very hot topic. And so talk about that a little bit.
Talk about handling things correctly.
Yeah.
This is how not to handle things because it really isn't correct in our esteemed opinion. But it's
Yeah.
the FTC has come down on Mastercard over debit card routing, and it's a really interesting order complaint. James and I talk about. I think you'll really get some insights out of that. And of course, this episode is brought to you by ISOAMP, and you can visit getisoamp.com and learn more about it. And we'll talk some more about it during our intermission. So, what do you say, James? Should we get going on this episode?
Let's go. Hey, everybody. Patti and I are here today with our good friend, Danny Mikhail, CEO and president over at Zuza. How you doing today, Danny?
Good, James. How are you and Patty doing?
Doing
I'm
well.
doing great.
We're excited. We're, I guess by the time this airs, we're already going to be probably into February, but at the time of this recording, we're kind of just getting into the new year. So it's an exciting time. So Danny, you've been on a lot, I don't need the full backstory on you. I think our audience knows you pretty well. Give us the update on Zuza. Like what's exciting, what's new, what's happening?
Man, we have a lot going on, James. Quite honestly, we're pretty excited to announce our new 5.0 version that is a complete UI, UX rewrite, remake of the entire platform from A to Z.
Wow.
We spent all of 2022 doing that. One of the newest and hottest features that's catching the industry by storm is, we're announcing on this show the new Zuza Marketplace. What that is, James, is a lot of our partners, as you know, we have over 200 white label resellers today out there actively selling Zuza. And one of the benefits of the app marketplace is now, on top of selling their own white label solution, their own product, they have this entire list of features and apps such as Marketing Pro, QuickBooks integration. We've got an e-gift card program called Prolific eGift. The list goes on, and they could take these additional apps and services and sell it as their own under their umbrella, and just as important, monetize it. So unlike some of the other app stores out there where you're allowed to sell their apps and then get nothing out of it, you can actually determine what you want to sell each app for, monetize it, and sell it to your merchants. It's unlike anything else in the industry today, quite honestly. So
Cool.
pretty excited about that.
That's pretty cool. I know that James and I wanted to talk about pricing today, so maybe if we can start off by talking about dual pricing because that's like a really hot topic, as we all know.
It is.
And I know there are plenty of different dual pricing options out there in the marketplace, but I was hoping maybe you could speak to our audience about omni-channel dual pricing and why that's so important moving forward.
Yeah, so obviously, thank you, Patty. Great question. With the Zuza product line, our business model has always been to give our partners and the merchants a true omni-channel opportunity to grow their business. So whether they want to sell on the run, sell in a brick and mortar, online, via invoicing, recurring, to us, it doesn't matter. We want to help that merchant capture that payment, which in essence helps our partners capture that payment and grow their revenues. Dual pricing, cash discounting, non-cash adjustment, whatever, we've got all of them available on our super app, Patty. So we allow our partners to pick what they want to pick, apply it to the merchant, because we all know one size doesn't fit all.
Right.
But dual pricing right now is a very hot topic. We probably get asked it 3-4 times a week. And it's something that we've developed. We think we've perfected it from our perspective, from what at least we've heard the card brands want to see. And according to a lot of different compliance officers that we've talked to from various large organizations, we feel like we've built a product that we can be proud of and our partners can be proud of.
Mm-hmm.
So Danny, I love that you brought that up because, in my mind, dual pricing and compliance are always kind of part of this overlapping conversation. And I was really interested when you told me kind of the way you implemented dual pricing. So I think even some of our audience members that maybe are involved in the POS world or ISV and looking at these different options might find it interesting. So talk about that a little bit. How did you set this up as far as the way it displays inside the device and then on the receipt, et cetera?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, one of the benefits of dual pricing is the customer is never caught off guard.
Right.
So whether you're buying a cup of coffee, and on our receipts at least, it shows $1 for a cup of coffee if you're paying cash, $1.10, whatever, if you're paying card, right? And it itemizes it all the way down the list. So I don't care if you're buying a salad, a pizza, a coffee. We literally have a cash card price all the way through. And then on our smart terminals, pretty similar. It will also show you a cash and card option, so you can pick it. So for our philosophy with dual pricing is, at least talking to some of the card brands and what we're seeing out there, they don't want the customer surprised at checkout, from what we're hearing. So with us, there is no bait and switch sort of approach. It's, you know what the card price is on every single item, as well as a cash price, and then you select it at checkout. We don't care if you're using the customer display or a smart terminal, or heck, even your iPhone. It will show you all the options and you select at the end. That's
the same if you're online as well, Danny?
Yeah, online, the regulation from what we've seen, it hasn't caught up. We do have it.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, we do have the code written. We haven't released it. And
Okay.
Online, what we've done is we're still doing what we call online convenience fee.
Okay.
Okay. So we have that option. But if the merchant wants to show both prices, cash and credit, they can do that as well on our, assuming they're using our online ordering, right? If they're using our in-house online ordering tool, we could show a card and cash price all the way down.
Okay, cool.
So one of the other things, Danny, I think that layers on top of this that I found interesting was your app store, because you and I've talked about this many times. There, I'll leave them nameless, but there are other solutions out there with app stores, obviously. And one of some of the concerns or issues there is that you have all these different developers developing things. They don't necessarily talk to each other very well. And then you layer on top of that a concept like dual pricing, right? That's got to be kind of seamless. Talk about your approach to the app store kind of in general, and then maybe you could give a little more specifics about maybe how dual pricing and these other pricing options kind of fit into that narrative.
Absolutely. Our app stores, like I said earlier on the call, it's unlike anything in the industry. We don't have our approach to it is we need control of the app store. We don't want bugs in the app store. All the code is under one umbrella, James. So the way we've designed and the way we've built it is it has to be accepted by our partners. They can mark down the price, and they can give it out for free. It doesn't matter. We sell to them, they sell to the merchant. So that's one big difference is we don't sell to the merchant directly. We work through our partners to the merchant. And that's caught our partners' attention. They love the way we approach it. And like I said, they can monetize it. The other big difference, James, between our app store and a lot of the competing products out there is we don't allow just anybody to go into the app store. For us, we have a very strict policy on bugs and downtime. If something doesn't meet our standards, we have to boot them out. And again, I can't mention some of the companies out there, but some of the horror stories we've heard of escalation tickets going 5, 6, 7 weeks between 3 or 4 or 5 apps not working properly, that will never happen here at Zuza. It can't happen here.
Have there been many that you've had to boot off?
We haven't. And most of the apps either A, we own, or B, they're partners that we vetted and they meet our standards of where our development team needs to be. So we don't have a quote unquote open API for just anybody to tie into.
Right.
We have a different process and a different way we approach it, Patti and James.
Okay.
So
in regards, and I'm sorry, and the last question, in regards to QuickBooks, that
was going to be my next question. Perfect.
yeah, I know James mentioned that. In regards to QuickBooks, with dual pricing, we just do a consolidated total sales, James, and then we reflect it back to QuickBooks. So QuickBooks, from our perspective, doesn't really care if they select a cash or credit, right? QuickBooks just wants to know what they sold it for, the price, the item, whatever. We do a consolidated total sales, and it automatically posts to QuickBooks. Merchant doesn't have to do anything because we've got a direct plugin to a QuickBooks Cloud with Zuza.
Yeah.
there's no manual entry with us, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. One last thought I had on the App Store is, I know your big claim to fame is the white label. Well, and you kind of alluded to it a second ago about how you don't go direct to the merchant, but how does that work exactly as far as the branding and everything of the App Store with your ISOs and stuff that white label?
None of the apps are branded Zuza, so they're third-party names or brands. Sure. And we are working with a couple of our partners that are developing their own apps that we could also put in there. So we do allow some of our white label partners to develop some apps to put in our App Store. Again, it has to meet our standard.
Right.
That's one. Two, it can't be a competing product to anything we currently have, or B, or C, I should say. It can't infringe or compete upon any of our current partners' current products. So we have a very strict guideline that rules out a lot of people. But they're not branded Zuza. They're third
So what
party.
you're saying, do your partners have some kind of a special link that's like their version of the App Store that a merchant can go to find the app that they want?
No, there's only one version of the App Store, but none of those apps are branded around any kind of competing product to our partners.
Oh, I see.
We're very strict on it. It's like, you can't put a surcharging gap in there because we already have a surcharging cash discounting gap. And more importantly, we don't want another processor putting something in there that our partners are.
Right.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I mean, I actually know several App Store kind of concepts in the industry where there's like 12, 15 different cash discount type apps, and it gets to be a lot of confusion. Even in our Facebook group, we get a lot of people saying, should I use this one? Should I use that one? This one has and so I think that does get a little confusing. And
we always start at Zuza. We tell the resellers, we tell the ISOs, we tell the agents, we say, listen, with all due respect, we start with the merchant first. Okay. And if it's causing problems for the merchant, we don't care you like it. We don't care we like it. It needs to go out. Right. So you have to keep, I've seen some app marketplaces out there, James. Honestly, I think you and I are semi-clever folks. I get lost. I'm like, what in the world? Where do I go here? And you're searching. You're absolutely right. There's 72 gift card apps. Well, the merchant doesn't need 72 gift card apps. They need one great one. Right.
Right.
So our approach is, like I said, unfortunately, it rules a lot of other softwares out. But I will tell you, there's a lot of unique softwares, individuals that we've got one group right now, they're out of Europe. They've got patents and trademarks on all kinds of tech that no one in the US has. And we will be the first one to offer it in our marketplace. So that's something that will take our partners and their sales team and give them a tool that, I don't care who you are, you don't have these tools if you're not working with this company that's publicly traded out of Europe.
Yeah.
So
cool.
Yeah, it's a different approach for sure. It works for a lot. It doesn't work for all.
Sure.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah. So let me circle back for just a minute to dual pricing. So, now that you are offering that, and you mentioned a lot of the interest in it, I'm just kind of curious what you're seeing. Like, do you see, and even talking about these other trends, it was the non-cash adjustment before this, and then it was the service fee and, whatever, right? Like, how are you seeing that change the market, specifically around point of sale? Are you seeing are your partners going with a different approach? Are they maybe giving things away for free now that they weren't because of the increased margin? Like, what are the trends that you're seeing that you think are kind of resulting from these new pricing tactics?
First, I will tell you, we still see quite a bit of people selling the old non-cash adjustment programs. I don't, until I think the card brands kind of crack down a little harder on that, you're still going to see that. It depends who the organizations are. I would say some of our, we do represent, I would say 4 or 5 of the super ISOs in the industry. They're probably top 15, 5 of the top 15 ISOs. A lot of them are starting to go that dual pricing route just because it's more in line with what the card brands are saying. But I hate to say it's a wild west out there, but we still see a little bit of everything. From the Zuza perspective, we still see the old cash discount, credit card surcharge. I mean, we see a little bit of everything out there, but we are seeing it's going slower than we thought it would, but we are seeing more of a migration to the dual pricing. But non-cash adjustments still, I would say, probably the most popular, but the dual pricing is almost 50-50 per month now with us.
Yeah, it's gaining, right? I mean, I think as more people are aware of it, it becomes sort of the most logical approach, really. Don't you think?
I think, and again, just speaking openly, I think where the partners that don't like it is because it's more transparent.
Mhm.
With the NAC, I feel like it's a little bit, you get less questions about it. Let's put it
Right.
like the merchants customer base asks less questions about it.
Right.
So I think
And
that's
just,
why, yeah.
yeah, it's just more upfront. I mean, that's what I think is most important about it is it's upfront to the merchant, it's upfront to the consumer. And if it's transparent that way, then the card brands are going to be.
The one word we heard from the card brands when we had a call a couple months ago was they don't want any customer surprises, right?
Perfect.
That was
Yeah.
the big
Yep.
word we heard probably a couple times was we don't want anyone caught off guard.
Mhm.
And I think that's why you're seeing them say, hey, start churning right here instead of left,
Right.
because that's kind of what we're seeing more of. Again, let's see what happens.
And,
Right.
and it also, I think, it's from the card brand's perspective, they don't want to see any surprises because they have enough problems
Right.
in Washington as it is. Okay, they start getting complaints from consumers. Those complaints are going to go to people like Dick Durbin as well as to Visa, and that's going to make the fight over the Credit Card Competition Act even worse.
And I wish everybody did it the right way because we wouldn't be in this position. But even the other day, I stopped at a Mexican restaurant here in downtown Phoenix. And if I tell you guys how these guys' cash discount program was set up, I was like, oh my goodness, this is exactly why guys like James and folks like and people like you, Patti, are slammed because
Right.
I mean, you want to talk about what not to do. This was a perfect merchant, and whoever set these guys up, I mean, 5-6%.
Yeah. I had a plumber that was like 10%. I'm like, do you realize that this is like unlawful?
I had Danny. I actually took a picture the other day and posted it in the group because I was at a pizza shop locally, and ironically, it was one of the only kind of. I was really good at selling the pizza shop chains. That was kind of my thing when I was selling.
That was your thing, right?
Yeah. And this is like the only one I didn't sell. I tried because it's like a franchise thing, so it's hard to get everybody together. Yeah, I still go there and buy pizza, But anyway,
you can't say no to good pizza, Patti.
That's right. It must be good pizza, Danny.
You can't say no to good pizza.
Yeah, so I drive up to the window, right? And I can't remember the exact wording, but it basically it literally said it had all the buzzwords that were just wrong. It literally said,
Right.
Something like, it costs us more to accept cards. We're adding a 4% fee to all debit and credit. We were adding a 4% convenience fee to all debit and credit transactions at the point of sale. And I'm like, and they're like, but we do offer a 4% cash discount. And I was like, oh my
God.
Mine was worse.
Good pizza maybe, but not good business sense, right?
This was a great little, probably one of the best Mexican hole in the walls I've been to in a long time. Phenomenal food. I mean, I'm definitely going back, but it said something like, we'd rather have cash. So if you're going to pay us card, it's going to be an extra 5%. I'm like, who wrote this up? Like,
right. Well, the sad thing about the one I was at was you could tell it was one of the ones that some ISO somewhere,
gave it to them,
provided them with this language. And this is like a 15 location, 50,000 a month place, it was just like, what in the world? So anyway, but okay. So let's zoom out before we're done, Danny, and forget about dual pricing and all of that for a minute, and let's broaden the gaze for a minute. Where like I said, as we're recording this, we're kind of just coming in. What are we, the 9th of January right now? It's time of this recording. What are the big trends that you're thinking about, Danny, just industry wide, and how do you see that impacting agents and ISOs?
One of the big things, and again, not to beat a dead horse, but it goes back to our merchant base is very satisfied with the idea of the super app model, James. And one of the big trends we're seeing is if merchants can have all the software they need under one roof, right, with one company, that's going to continue. I think you're going to start to see a lot of other software players out there. Even one of the biggest one in the industry, they're even starting to recognize some of the stuff that you and I have been talking about over the years. And that is merchants would rather deal with one 800 number, one software, one company. I can confidently tell you, we were shocked at when the App Store rolled out at the number of subscribers the first 30 days. I don't think any one of us forecasted or projected with little to no marketing how many merchants were like, oh yeah, I need this app, I need that app, and I don't want to use a third party to do marketing. I don't want to use a third party to do gift cards, loyalty, whatever, all under one roof. So I see that continuing. Okay, I see that continuing. I continue to see a lot of the larger software players entering our space.
Yeah.
I think, finding a good group to hitch your wagons to is going to be critical for a
Yeah.
lot of ISO. I mean, you and I, James, we're and Patty, we're all dinosaurs in one way. I've been in the industry almost
Right.
20 years.
Right.
So going back to the Trans 330 days where you're flinging brick and mortar terminals, merchants are a lot more educated. I think what we're seeing is we're starting to see some of those merchants have been around for a long time, phase into retirement. Some of the younger generation roll in and starting up new businesses. And quite honestly, I at least predict a economic downturn in the next 12 to 24 months, along with many others. And that's a great time for people that maybe are out of work to start up a business, right? It happened in 08, 09. So I think you're going to see a lot of new merchants entering the space. And these folks that are coming in are going to be looking for the right solution. It's not just Zuza. There's other good softwares out there. I think we approach it a little bit differently than most. So I think one of the big trends you'll see is more people looking for the right software and tools to grow their merchant, grow their client base.
I think your comment about younger people also is really important here, Danny, because it's like, it's not only that they're stepping in and taking over, but these are people that are, kind of like were raised on the gig economy, right? So starting their own business is going to be really important because, from the skill, I think, and I know a lot of these younger people, they've developed a skill set. Now they're like, oh, wait a minute, we can go in and we can start a company, maybe even a payments company,
Absolutely.
and bring
Absolutely.
a new approach.
Agreed.
And these are people that are going to be looking for omni-channel. They're going to be looking for slick technology.
Social media, a lot of new technology, convenience. It's going to be key. And
it's how much time do you want? I always use this analogy to our partners, and whenever we have our partner calls, I say, how much time does a merchant want to spend flipping between logins and apps versus how much time would they, if we could save the average merchant 20 hours a month, 30 hours a month with one super app, what would that mean to them? Because I don't think you could put a monetary number to that. I don't think you could say, hey, this is worth X to me, because that's time back to with their kids. That's time, for me, I like being on the golf course on Fridays. That's time doing other things you enjoy, as opposed to, with us, it's one reporting tool that reconciles everything. We don't care if it's your marketing, your gift, loyalty, time and attendance. It's all in one central dashboard. So on average, I think we are saving merchants about 27, 28 hours a month. And we're bringing in a third-party company to actually help put some real numbers and reporting behind that, because we're hearing great success stories. So to us, I think especially the younger generations don't want to spend that much time in the business. From what we're seeing, it's different than the old days, I would say. So it's a different world. It's definitely a different world.
Yeah, love it. Good stuff. Well, Danny, it's always such a pleasure to have you on. Before we let you go, give our audience where they should go to learn more about Zuza if they want to learn more about the white label or just partnering up with you guys.
Absolutely. GetZuza.com, GetZuza.com is a great place to start, or email info@GetZuza.com. Best two ways to get a hold of us. We'd love to talk to you guys and see if we're a good fit for each other.
Awesome. Danny, thank you so much as always for your insights and your time. Appreciate it. So Patti, the last 3 weeks, I believe it's the last 3 weeks, we've been talking about ISOAMP and the statement analysis service that I have, poured my heart and soul and lots of money into. Which is going
ever since I've known you, James, you've been really.
I know. It's hard to believe, actually. If you'd have told me how long it was going to take and how much money it would take, I'm not sure I would have done it, but I did it. I'm not going back now.
I think you probably would have, but that's okay.
Yeah, I probably would have. But anyway, it's been a lot of fun.
It's a passion. It's a work of passion. Right?
I just wanted to get I feel like I've spent so many hours trying to figure out the payments industry. I kind of wanted to get it out of my head and into a technology solution that could benefit the industry. So anyway, today I want to talk about the training. So in addition to statement analysis, ISOAMP also part of the same technology suite. So when your agent logs in to use the statement analysis, the proposal generation, all that we've talked about, you can also add the training. And so we have a fully white labeled portal. So your logo's up there again. It's the same system. They have the statement analysis and they have the training. the training is a separate subscription. It's funny when people hear how much it is, Patty. They usually say, is that per user or is
I
that?"
know, right?
And I
Like,
say,
what?
"No, it's not." So we have
It's
a
the
really
best
cool
deal out there,
platform.
James. I have to tell you,
I think it
I've
is.
checked a lot out, and I still think yours is the best deal out there.
Well, thank you. So it's a big challenge in our industry, getting your agents trained, getting your team trained, not just your agents, could be support, whoever, but
Right.
do you really want to spend 3, 4, 5, 10 hours with each new employee, helping them understand interchange, understand what card brand fees are, understanding dual pricing, understanding a processing statement, common objections, all of that. We have like 30, I believe like 38 hours or something like that of content in that portal with a lot of different courses. So my team works with you. We customize it to your needs to say, hey, what do you want your employees to go through? And it does include the how to sell dual pricing, which goes along with this episode, that I just put out not too long ago, shot at my new studio, super professional, 3.5, 4 hours of content for somebody just coming into the industry that knows nothing. We take them from that all the way through to successfully selling dual pricing and giving them a script and objections and all of that. So anyway, if you're interested in that one, head over to ccsalespro.com/training, which is where that lives right now. We're actually moving that under the ISOAMP brand this year, but we're still working on redoing websites and all that. But if you want to learn more about that, go to ccsalespro.com/training. And then if you want to learn about the statement analysis business and how to get that done, just head over to getisoamp.com, getisoamp.com.
And I should just throw in that I did James's training. I decided.
Oh, that's right, you did.
I did last year. I had done a few different trainings, and then I did James, and I have to tell you that it was intense, but it's so full of information. And I'm the payments maven. I know everything about payments, I thought. Selling payments is a whole different thing. And to me, I think the training is, orders of magnitude above anything else that's out there. So give it a shot. It's ISOAMP, getisoamp.com or ccsalespro.com/training.
You got it. Patty, thanks so much for the little testimonial there. I appreciate that. So,
Sure
all right, everybody, let's get back to our episode. So, Patty, today in Questions from the Field, I wanted to kind of extend or continue the conversation we just had with Danny because I get a lot of questions from agents and ISOs that are transitioning to dual pricing and noticing what Danny brought up actually in the interview. So it's kind of interesting and ironic there. But this idea of we get more questions, the customer notices more, that sort of thing. And, the advice that I keep giving them, Patty, is that there is a certain amount of truth to this. Now, I will tell you, for the vast majority of agents that I've talked to that are offering the dual pricing and things like that, they're not noticing a huge difference in the feedback, but they are getting a little bit more feedback. So I've always said that you're going to get, especially when you first roll it out, you're going to get 1 to 3% of the transactions. You're going to
at least noticing it.
Yeah. Right. And I would say with dual pricing, you're definitely going closer to that 3% rather than the 1%. But here's the thing. With non-cash adjustment, the reason you don't get a lot of questions is that people don't notice it usually until after they leave. That is not ideal because now instead of them asking the merchant a question, they are just filing a complaint with their bank and their bank is passing on to the card brands. And this is why when you look at the larger companies that are doing the dual pricing, their issues with compliance and Visa, letters and all that kind of drop off a cliff when they switch to dual pricing because yes, it is true that the customer is asking the business owner more questions, but if those questions are being answered in an honest way, they're not complaining to the card brands.
Right. Exactly.
And that's the real risk. So the one point I would make is, if you switch to dual pricing, just understand that you need to do it right. And so it's not enough to just say, well, we're going to start doing dual pricing just like we did non-cash adjustment. And we're just going to sell it to the merchants and hope for the best. You need to think through what is the onboarding process and what materials are you providing them. I'm a really big believer. A lot of my consulting clients have done this in the past that you really need to have just a business card size marketing piece or even a 3rd-page card stock. One-sided, real nicely designed, and it just explains the dual pricing and why you're doing it, and the fact that it's not you attempting to cover your payment processing fees. It's you trying to present more of a fair process.
Approach.
And if you're still in your mind, if you're still thinking of it, so when you're pitching the business owner, if you're still pitching it as, trick your customers into paying your processing fees, that doesn't resonate the way that you might think it is. The best way to do it is to say, look, your customers are already paying your processing fees. They're paying it in terms of pricing.
Right.
What's the right way to do it? What's the fair way to do it? Well, probably the people that are getting the benefit should be the ones paying the higher price. Let's make that transparent and clear. So talk to the business owner about that and make sure they are coming at it with their team, with their staff. They need to be coming at it from a positive place, not a negative place.
Right.
Then make sure that you are providing them with the materials they need. So when somebody does ask a question, they can say, oh, I'm so glad you asked that. We're actually really excited about this program because of how much more transparent and fair it is to our customers.
Right.
Here is a little, 3rd-page document. Here's a little slick. Here's a little business card that explains the program. And if you do that, I'm telling you, the compliance stuff, you're already, if you're doing it right, you're in good standing. But then if you have this, then the merchants are going to have a great experience. And so encourage them to talk to their team. Where I see the biggest issue is merchants will have a really negative experience if they are approaching it from a negative mindset. Sure. And they go to their team and say, hey, everybody, we're doing this new program. We're not going to pay processing fees anymore. We're going to pass it on to our customer.
Yeah.
If that's the conversation, you're going to have problems. But if
It's
the conversation is, we want to we have to do a price increase because these costs keep going up, but we want to implement a fair price increase that's transparent. And so we're going to differentiate our pricing for people that pay with a card versus people that pay with cash. If that's the message and that's what's the belief, it's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks, James. Okay, so James, I thought I'd start off this February with some news from the Federal Trade Commission. They're taking Mastercard to task over allegations that it blocks merchants from routing e-commerce debit card payments over competing networks.
Yep, I saw this.
Now you'll recall we've talked about this. It's a hot button issue, the routing thing. And, with both the Department of Justice and the FTC last year, it was said that they were investigating the card brands over major issuers, over debit routing policies that disadvantage the regional EFT networks, like NICE and Shazam. The Fed took a stand last year, updating its interpretation of the Durbin Amendment dictates to ensure that network choice is given for online debit as well as for card-present debit card payments. So in a complaint that was made public in the final days of 2022, the FTC charged Mastercard with violating the EFT Act as well as the Durbin Amendment in terms of not giving merchants debit card processing choices.
Right. Yeah.
Now it's interesting because, last year it was the FTC was said to be investigating both Visa and Mastercard.
Right.
I asked the FTC about the investigation of Visa. Where does it stand? They didn't respond, and I wasn't the only one. I read some other reporting and they were like, FTC failed to respond. But Doug Cantor, who's of the National Association of Convenience Stores, in an interview with Forbes, said that Mastercard had been, quote, particularly egregious in preventing merchants from routing debit card payments through competing networks. Now, the FTC order, it said that Mastercard was flouting the law with policies that block routing through its tokenization process.
Right. That
it was, Mastercard tokenizes customer account and transaction information to be sent over its network. It was refusing to de-tokenize that information for competing networks. And the FTC complaint specifically addresses Mastercard's refusal to provide conversion services for e-wallets, but said the order applies to all e-commerce debit card payments.
Yeah.
And the order also bans Mastercard from taking any action to prevent competitors from providing their own token services,
right,
or to offer tokens on Mastercard branded networks. If it fails to uphold this, any violations, subject to about a fine of, doesn't sound like much, 46,500. I'm really curious as to where that number came from.
I know, right? When I
right?
saw that
Like,
number, I'm like, oh my, that's like the cheapest thing Mastercard's going to spend all
yeah,
year.
I mean, what difference is it? I mean,
Right,
that's like a luncheon for their staff, right?
right. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
anyway, Mastercard, defended its routing practices, but said it would abide by terms of the agreement.
I'll tell you, Patty, the thing about I read it as well, and I gotta tell you, this whole thing, I mean, I'm just really, for once in my life, just really on the side of the card brands. I mean, frankly, this is ridiculous. The government is basically saying, there is no well-established, secure way to de-tokenize cardholder information and share it with a third party.
Yeah.
And why would there be?
Why would you want to? I mean, that's what blows my mind. Why would you even want to detokenize it for a third party? Because that defeats the purpose of tokenization.
Yeah, and so the whole idea behind it is the government is the way I thought of it is, it's interesting. It's like the government is trying to regulate innovation, and they're trying to say we are regulating that a new technology be created that doesn't exist.
That's interesting. I hadn't really looked at it that way, but that is,
you can't do that.
There.
You can't, you know what I mean? It would, to me, it's almost like the government coming out and saying, we're gonna demand that 20% of all travel be done using drones.
Right.
Well, we don't have drones here that fly people. You can't just regulate so basically what they're going to do, and this is, if you remember in my insights for 2023, my extra point was this wild card that's happening with government that's going to mess up our ecosystem.
Right.
This is exactly what I'm talking about. Think about this for a second. What possible incentive does Mastercard have at this point to ensure that this handoff of de-tokenized, which is a word that is almost an oxymoron,
right,
to make sure this de-tokenized cardholder data is handled securely by third parties? They almost have a disincentive. It would be great for them if they did that, and there was a huge breach.
The proverbial poop hits the fan, right?
Yeah, and then they would say, well, yeah, exactly. You asked us to de-tokenize sensitive information, which we did because you're idiots. So,
but the other part that kind of, makes my mind kind of hurt, my brain kind of hurt, is the idea that, okay, so if these third parties want to create a tokenization service that can be used on Mastercard's network, Mastercard has to say, okay. Well, what about the quality control that goes into the creation of those types of services?
It's just ridiculous. And
so it's like it's like they don't even, it's like create a new technology. It sounds to me like create new vulnerabilities.
Well, exactly. Well, in other words, you either have to accept existing vulnerabilities or create new technology, and you can't accept the vulnerabilities, right? So if you ask me what this is going to end up, I was thinking about it, and I'm like, okay, what's going to happen, right? This is my prediction. We'll see. I could be way off. This is my prediction. You're going to see Mastercard and Visa. They're going to work together on this. I think, my opinion. Maybe they'll do it separately. I don't know. But you're going to see a service come out that's going to be the de-tokenized, whatever, the service of now the new technology to handle tokens by a third party. And it's going to be like 2 cents a transaction, 3 cents a transaction. And they're going to actually make more money by de-tokenizing and sharing it than they would if they ran the transaction themselves.
That's really kind of interesting, James.
If that's not what they're thinking, they should hire me as a consultant. I could explain it to them. I'm talking to people at the card brand, so you never know.
We know that we have people. We know that people that work at the card brands listen. So if you heard that, there you
go. But they really should. And I mean, to me, I love that idea because it'd be such a smack in the face to the regulators, which in this case need to be smacked in the face, in my opinion, of saying, you know what, if you want us to do this, we're not willing to put at risk the hundreds of millions of cardholders who trust us with their data. So if you want us to share it, okay, fine. We'll make an API that is totally secure, that we believe in, that we manage, so third parties can run transactions. Oh, and of course, we're going to have a fee for that service. Be great. So anyway, that's my prediction.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. We'll have to watch and keep tabs on that.
Yeah.